This is a Nissan Skyline R33, and there is a good chance you haven't seen one that looks like this. Not because it's a very rare car, but because this one is standard. I've never really been a fan of tuner cars. When done correctly they can be amazing, yes. The problem is most people don't have the money to sort of make them properly, and what you end up with is a car with a terrible body kit and a stupid exhaust. But that's more talking about the people that buy the car rather than the car itself. The particular model which I have here is the GTR V-spec, which features a 320 horsepower straight 6, so this is a relatively quick car. The power isn't weighted at wheel spin either, thanks to the 4-wheel drive system, and 0 to 60 takes around 5 seconds, not bad for a B-class car, and it will go on to top out at around 160 miles an hour eventually. While I tend not to really be a fan of 4-wheel drive cars, I have to say this is a real surprise. It's incredibly easy to drive this car fast because there is so much grip. You can attack every corner with confidence, as the back of the car will stay planted through pretty much everything. And when you really push it, all you get is a little bit of understeer to inform you that you've kind of found the limit of where this car will stick to the road. I have to say this car is a real surprise really, just how well it drives. However, there is a problem, and that's the gearbox. Put simply, the ratios are horrendously long, and couple that with the twin turbos and all the inherent turbo lag issues, you have to be in exactly the right gear at exactly the right time, otherwise you'll be pretty much going nowhere. I have to say, around Suzuka, which is a relatively long track, there are quite some long straights here. I never even got it out of 4th gear. With the exception of the gearbox, this car is fantastic. It has enough power to be fast while not overwhelming the 4-wheel drive system like you get on the big powerful Lambos. I'd have to say this is quickly becoming one of my favourite B-class cars. It might not be the fastest car there is, but the levels of grip mean you can find the limit and keep it there without having fear it will suddenly try and throw you off the track. Of course, it's no good just having me talk about the car. It's now time to hand it over to the stick and see what lap time he can get out of it. As you would expect, off the line it is always going to be pretty good. 4-wheel drive and relatively powerful engine means the acceleration is not too bad. Now it is important to remember that this is a B-class car and it is not going to be sort of setting any records. However, it should be interesting to see where it fits in among the sort of cars we currently have on the leaderboard. Around the first corner, and it's looking pretty good. There's no understeer, it's not heading towards the grass, and it's looking really quite nice and easy to drive. Up to Chicago again, gets turned in nicely. It's looking very smooth through this particular section of the track. There's no hint of understeer despite it being 4-wheel drive. Now coming down to the hammerhead, stick and finally get it into 3rd gear. The gear ratios on this car are so ridiculously long. They're made especially worse by the fact this is a pretty short track. Heavy on the brakes into the hammerhead. We're going to get our first little bit of understeer here. We head towards the cones a little bit, but it's all kept within the lines, which is always good to see. And on the exit, of course, there's no leery, scary moments in this car. It's very easy to drive. Up to the follow through now, and this can be taken flat out in this car. It's one of the few cars actually that we've had around our track which can be done in. It does around about 105 through that section. I think, if I remember rightly, the record is around 111 by the Lotus 211 and the ACR Viper. And here we go, coming up to the second to last corner now. This is a particularly nasty corner, this one. Gets turned in nicely. Is it going to understeer wide like a lot of cars do? No, it stays on the track. And around the last corner there is a little bit of understeer now, starting to creep in, across the bump and across the line. Now, the all-important lap time for the Skyline. It did it in a 1:23.7, which puts it in between a BMW M1 and a Dodge Charger. Now, I'm a little bit disappointed by that lap time, I guess, because the car is really nice and very easy to drive. However, I think the sort of main reason why it's so far down the leaderboard in terms of its sort of competitors like the Impreza, that's also a B-class car, around the same PI, is just to do with the gears. Stig said that you could do a whole lap of that track in just 2nd and 3rd. You wouldn't need to go in any other gears, which is sort of like a waste of gears. You've got 4th and 5th that you can use. I think for that actual lap, Stig did use 1st for the hammerhead, but that was it. The rest of it was done in 2nd and 3rd, which seems a bit bizarre because the top speed of the car isn't really that fast. Okay, 160 isn't bad, but in a car like a Jag XJ220, that sort of thing, that needs long gears because it's got a high top speed, yeah, fair enough. But in that car, I don't know why it's got such silly gears. But yeah, that's it for this car. If you have a car you want to see us drive around the track, then leave it in the comments and we will take a look and we'll pick our favourites for next week. But that's it for this episode, guys, so thank you very much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.